Welcome back to Signal Live. We are here today to talk about a very important topic, fraud prevention. And with me today, I have Shakira Brennan, who is our risk manager here at Signal Financial Federal Credit Union. Just as a reminder for those joining us, we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and on LinkedIn, of course. If any of you are here live, feel free to put in your chat that you're here for Team Live. If not, put in hashtag Team Replay if you're watching this in the replay. And we encourage anyone to leave any comments you have or any questions about what is being shared today so you can learn from one of the best. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest in Spotlight, Shakira Brennan. Welcome, Shakira.
Hey, Felipe, thank you so much. Glad to be here to help everybody hopefully get some tips and pointers on preventing fraud and kind of what to do if fraud occurs. And then just to tell you a little bit about myself, I have been with Signal for 10 years in January. I actually started as a teller, and I have been able to work my way up in Signal. I've been in lots of departments here, including from the teller line to our back office support, doing all kinds of payment processing and just basically everything in between, e-banking. I've been in almost every department. So now I'm here in the fraud department, and I'm the risk manager, and I love fraud, right? I love being able to try to stop it, but dealing with it is no fun. So hopefully we'll get to talk about some of that today.
Oh, try to get both of us on here on screen. For some reason, it's not working. Hold on here 1 second. Well, I figured this out here, Shakira, because we shouldn't have a little glitch here. But as far as fraud, prevention, obviously it's important. But can you share with everybody why it's so important to really focus on that in your personal life as well as your professional life?
Yeah, fraud prevention is so important because having fraud happen to you can impact every part of your daily life. So, being proactive and trying to prevent fraud will take you a lot further and hopefully give you the steps that you need to not have fraud, right? So, some of the things with the fraud prevention that we always try to tell people to do is to protect everything that you have. We talk about fraud prevention many different ways, and that can be just walking in the store with your card, covering those last digits. And now with a lot of different fraud preventions, we talk about the tapping of your card, right? That happens when you walk in the store now. When you walk out of the store, you're done. Make sure you put your cards away somewhere secured. But fraud prevention is so important because the impacts of fraud can go from lasting a couple hours or they can last years to try to clean up. We've seen it from anywhere in between, the simple check fraud that can happen or password being taken, but the bigger impacts of like credits being taken can last years for somebody to try to clean up. So fraud prevention is so important, and we really want everybody to try to do everything that they can to try to protect themselves. So that's why it's so important. It can have such an impact on your daily life that can last years and just be a headache to try to clean up.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm still trying to figure out how to get us both on the screen at the same time. All right.
Okay.
There we go. Now we're back.
There you go.
So thank you for sharing that, and that's great insight there. Can you talk to people a little bit about what people can do to protect themselves? What are some tips that you have or advice that people might not realize that they could do even starting today?
Yeah. So some of the great tips that we always tell people is to monitor your credit. Something that people don't really do until they're ready to apply for a loan or they're ready to go look for a job and things like that. But your credit is so important, and you should definitely always check your credit. You can get your free credit report once a year from the free annualcreditreport.com. So we definitely suggest that you do that. There are so many other ways you can monitor your credit right now. There are apps out there. We don't promote any of the apps, but you can go out there and you can search. There's some big ones out there that can help you look at your credit on a day-to-day basis, your credit score. It'll let you know if anybody has even tried to do anything. One of the other things that we do suggest is putting a lock on your credit report. Even if you don't think that anything has happened, it is one of the best things you can do. put the lock on your credit report. And then that way, if anybody did get your social security number and things like that, they wouldn't be able to go out there and just apply for a loan. Because once they get a loan and if they're able to open it, dealing with that type of credit impact can take years and years to clean up because the loan is open. And as you know, once the loan is on your credit, it's on there for many years. We've seen people impacted to the point that they had to get a totally new social security number. And that can be a headache on its own. So that's one of the things you can do. The other thing that you can do is also check systems. A lot of institutions use check systems to run your reporting when you open an account. And that's something that they do on the back end. So a lot of times the consumer may not know it's being done until there's something that pops up on the check systems. You can also contact check systems to put an alert on your report there. That way, if somebody walks into a financial institution or goes online to open an account, that block is there. So that will prevent them. And then, like the credit report, you can add a phone number so that they will contact you directly if somebody were to walk in. So those are some of the big tips that we do. The bigger type of preventions that you can do for fraud because those are the bigger impacts that can happen to you. The smaller things that we talk about as far as preventing fraud is just safeguarding all of your information. If you have people coming into the house and you're having work done in your house, right? We don't think about that. Put away the checkbooks. Try not to have things come to you in the mail. Mail theft is at an all-time high right now. So if you get your statements in the mail, credit card, things like that, try to get those things electronically or even through your bank's bill pay system. A lot of those bill pay systems have it where you can get your bill right there as an e-bill. And with that, it's all coming through a secured method. That way you're not getting those things out in the open. If it's lost in the mail, somebody could potentially have the credit card information, your bank statements, and things like that. So really anything you can do to safeguard yourself is what we really are trying to push so that you have the tools, right? If you can stop it up front, then you don't have to worry about all the work that comes behind it. Safeguard everything, your PIN numbers that you use for your debit cards. Don't make it something that somebody can guess, like your year of birth or your kid's birthday. Pick a random 4 digits for your PIN numbers. Anything that you're doing that's secured, passwords and things like that, make them random. Don't make it things that people would know that they would be easily guessed. If somebody knows you, right? Things like what was your first dog? Well, your best friend from high school, they might know that, and maybe now they're a cyber criminal and they have the answer to that. So those are the things that we really say. Keep the things random and secure everything that you can. Try to do the e-statements, the e-bills, and try to get as many things electronically through a secured method rather than through the mail. Paper through the mail is one of the least secured ways. And I know people worry about emails too. That's why having it come through e-bills with your financial institution is a good workaround because you can get your bills that way. You log into your account securely and they link with the provider for most of them. That way your bill comes up and then if you need it, you can print it out or save it to a computer and have it at all the time. But those are just some of the things that we recommend for our members.
Well, there's some great tips. I know I've learned a lot from you and from the credit union on how to protect ourselves. You mentioned check systems earlier. Is that someone that somebody can reach out to them personally, or do you have to go through the institution?
No, actually, that's something that people should reach out to individually. Institutions are not able to contact check systems and say to make a change. It's similar to a credit reporting. If the person or member has an issue with that reporting system, they have to contact them directly. But being proactive, it's the same thing. You contact them to put the block on there just as you would your credit report. So the person, whoever that is, the member or consumer, they would be contacting check systems.
Awesome. And one other question here, you mentioned, actually, before I go to the question, we have a few comments here, 2 comments here already. One from Chris Ricker, our trainer, like, nice job with the troubleshooting. Thank you, Chris. We always have technical glitches. You never know what's going to happen. So I appreciate that. And then Jez Beer from our digital member support system says he likes the fact that you mentioned I can take years to clear the fraud, which is very important, time consuming, and also can take a toll on your health. Thank you for throwing out how to put checks to preserve it. So yeah, and Jez Beer is one of our experts here as well. He definitely is very good about protecting our members' safety, but also sharing it with the employees. Now, you mentioned also about passwords and all that. Obviously, I think we've all heard your traditional passwords aren't as secure as they used to be. Use a phrase like Felipe's purple tie or something like that people wouldn't necessarily catch. But you also mentioned your email, and I know that many of us sometimes might have an older email. Like I know I'll admit it. I have my AOL account still, but I also have a Gmail, and I'm getting it transferred over. But for those people that maybe have AOL still or Yahoo, what concerns are there about having that, and what would you recommend?
Yeah, so some of the email providers are easily hackable or they have been hacked in the past. And so, they've come out on the news. Like Yahoo was one of them years ago. They came out and they admitted, they had a big breach in that. Those things don't just go away. What happens to that information is that they take it and they sell it on the dark web and they sell it underground. So years later, that information can still be used. Well, when the breach happened, it was years ago, and perhaps you changed a password, and that password was still another password that you use somewhere else. These systems, as they're breached, that information is constantly being sold. So a good method is to always change your password. Don't just do it when you see a breach come along. Get into the habit of changing your passwords more often. But one of the things with the phrases that somebody taught me too is that you don't have to type out the whole phrase, right? Or that they use this trick. So if they love to shop at Target, they would put, I love to shop at Target. And they would use the first letter from each of those words and make that their password. So the phrase wasn't the whole thing. Instead, it was the first letter of their phrases. And they would remember, right? Or if they had something happen at the store, right? They have the worst customer service. They would use those phrases and use the first letters. But the bigger issue with these emails being taken is that we use our emails for everything. If you applied for a mortgage before, or a loan, or you were just doing anything where you needed to verify your identity with somebody, you most likely emailed your ID. You probably emailed bank statements. You probably emailed your tax returns trying to get the mortgage and things like that. They're just getting into the place now where more places are using a secured portal. So, right. So for the most part, we were all emailing this information. Well, if your email is hacked, right, even if they're not using it in a way that you can see, they can go into your sent folder and they can get that copy of your ID. They can get the tax statements, your bank statements, everything that you have sent out is now accessible to the person who has gotten that information. So it's a bigger deal than a lot of people think of. They're like, they see it on the news and they're like, oh, that doesn't refer to me. I don't really have any money, or I'm not doing this in my thing. If you've sent out your ID in an email one time, they got it. And that's all they need. And we see that more and more because of the identity theft and things like that. So if you haven't, today's a great day. Here's your reminder to change your password for your email. Maybe go through your sent folder and delete some of the things that are very personal that really shouldn't be there. It's been years, I'm sure, that a lot of people have been using emails, right? You had our AOLs and our Gmails and the Yahoos, but we're seeing more and more of that way that the information is being obtained. It's not that there's somebody next door to you who broke into your house and got it. That hacker got into your email. They were able to get to your sent folder and they got everything that you sent out of there. And we don't think about it because it's become our way of life. We're so used to emailing every document and just sending out whatever we need whenever we need to. But it's a huge way that they are using to get the information that we are trying to secure. So please, change your passwords and go through your sent items and delete the bank statements and the tax returns or anything that you've done. And going forward, if you have a loan company or anybody that you're working with, a lot of them should have a secure portal that you should be able to use now. I know we've adopted that so that, a new account or a loan and things like that, you're able to go into our secure portal to put the information so that this isn't going back and forth through email. That is one of the things you can do to safeguard yourself starting today is to really take a look at that.
That's a great tip, and I love the first letter of every word of the password. I'm going to start using that because I think that's brilliant. Because you remember the phrase. If you remember the phrase, you can remember the first letters. That's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
the other thing, as far as the email, I just want to make sure everyone knows, Shakira's not saying that, Gmail is the best email. Gmail can still
Nope.
be hacked. It's just saying that
Yeah.
the other ones are much higher at risk. And I will share that I was transferring my stuff to Gmail and I had a Gmail account. My Gmail got hacked. And so that actually spawned me to sit there and go ahead and actually change my passwords on my Gmail, but also look at all my other passwords. I know one of the things that we use here at our company is 1Password. There's a lot of apps out there that will help you store your passwords. 1Password I know is one that's great because it tells you if you reuse the password more than once, it lets you know that you're a higher risk for a breach. So it's also good to remember not to have the same password, right? On
Yes.
multiple
Yes.
things.
Yeah, it's very important, especially with I guess all the fraud trends we're seeing now, they all start somewhere, and we try to go back and figure out where they start from. And it's sometimes it can be impossible to do, because as hard as we're working to stop the fraud, fraudsters are out there trying to figure out new ways to do fraud, right? So things that we've never even seen tomorrow might pop up, and then you have to figure out how they did it. So it's always something coming, and they figure out new words and things to call these different fraud schemes, right? But there's always a new fraud scheme out there. And the most important thing that you can do is to be vigilant. Know what you're clicking on. Don't click on things. And with your email too, if you get an email that you weren't expecting, do not open it. And the other thing you can do is, if you put your mouse, or even in your like phone, if you put your finger onto the sender, you can see the actual sender's address. So sometimes you might get something, oh, from Costco saying, oh, you want a $50 gift card. You know, you shopped at Costco, but were you expecting the gift card? Probably not. But if you click on the sender's address, that is one of the times that you can see the email address will have nothing to do with Costco. It's some crazy email address. So that's another tip that you can do. If you get an email and you're unsure, don't click on any of the links. Click on the sender to see the true email address. Because that's another tip that you can use. If you weren't expecting it, don't open it. But if you think maybe it was supposed to come, click on the sender to see what that whole domain leads to.
That's an awesome tip, and I know that's helped me a lot in the past, because I know we get phishing emails, and I got one at work that was actually very, trustworthy looking. It said, "Hey, your files are going to be purged after this date from IT. Go ahead and click this link to look into them." And when I looked at the email, I saw it had the name of the IT person that normally sends us those. But when I clicked on the email, it was a totally random email. It wasn't even their name. So that's a wonderful tip, and that can definitely save you a lot of heartache. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, we do have a comment here from our CFO, Jonathan. He just wanted to say thank you for educating everyone about this important topic and timely topic. You're certainly very knowledgeable in this area. Fraud certainly seems to be on the rise. It is useful to know some of these tools on what each of us can do to help protect ourselves. So thank you, Jonathan, for that. And you're right, Shakira, you are very knowledgeable, and I'm very grateful that you are sharing all this information, because, again, a lot of people don't realize that they need to look at protect themselves, even if they're not being attacked or being targeted. But if someone has a fear that they have been hacked, or they have had something, their email, their Gmail, any account hacked, what steps should they take? What recommendations do you have or advice?
Don't wait. If you think that you've had any kind of fraud, act immediately. If you wait even a couple hours, the impact of that can be very bad. It can be detriment to your bank accounts. It can be bad for your credit. It can be that hour, couple minutes can take days and weeks and years to clean up. So if you think that you've had any type of fraud, whether your email has been hacked, your bank account, there's a transaction in question, you got a text confirming a transaction, anything that you think that you may have been a victim of fraud, act immediately. So if it is regarding your email, change your passwords, go through your sent stuff, make sure that you have the second backup on your email where it has your cell phone number. I know that they have it where you can put another email address on there. It's okay, but truly, if emails have been hacked and you use the same password, it's a very good possibility your other emails have possibly been hacked and you just don't know yet. We recommend linking it to your cell phone. That way it comes directly to you. And that's why it's important that if you update or change your cell phone number, that you do that anywhere that you have it linked to, right? If you lock your credit report, you need to update that. If you have it linked to your financial institutions, you have to make sure that you update that. But as soon as you see it, act. If it is for your financial institution, we beg you to please contact us as soon as possible. The faster you let a financial institution know, whether it's your credit card, your bank account, the credit bureaus, let us know as soon as possible, because that can make it stop excuse me, from continuing to happen. If you have check fraud, right, for instance, and one check cleared your account, you're at work, you're super busy. I'm going to call the bank in just a moment, right? The check didn't even clear because it was for $20,000 and I didn't have the money. No worries. I'll wait until after work to call them. By the time you've called us at 5 o'clock, the fraudster has already probably hit your bank account 3 or 4 more times. They're just seeing how much money they can get out. And by the time you've contacted the place, your money could be gone. They could have applied for a loan. They work so quickly. It's crazy. As fast as you're at work typing an email, the fraudster is at work trying to drain the accounts and get everything that they can. If you feel that, if you confirm that you've been a victim of identity theft, the FTC has a great guide in there for identity theft. You can go to identitytheft.gov to report any identity theft that you've had. They have a whole workbook to walk you through reporting to the credit bureaus, contacting your institution. They even have forms and letters that you can send to the different institutions depending on the type of fraud you've had. So that is one of the resources that we push everybody to. The other thing too is to file a police report. If it was local fraud, which we've also seen, go to your police precinct, file a report. If you have a picture of the people who have frauded you, take it with you, file the reports, and make sure it gets out there. It doesn't matter how much it is. I know I've heard people come back and they're like, it was just $100, or the item didn't clear my account, so I didn't go to the police. The thing is, if you report it to your police station and they see that maybe, hey, it was mail fraud, they're able to launch an investigation with the post office. They can put together a ring, and what they'll do is they'll contact the financial institutions and the people that have done this, reported the fraud. They'll put it all together and they'll make a huge court case. So I know a lot of times when we do something in the very beginning and it's a small piece, and we, report fraud to a police officer and we don't think anything happens, we've seen it from the back end that one person's reporting that nothing happened, but that they were attempted to have fraud, has led to huge criminal investigations and fraud rings being taken down. We see it on the news sometimes. They don't talk about where those things start, but it's by one person reporting it. And that's all it takes. So the biggest thing that I will say is if you suspect fraud, act immediately. Contact your financial institution, contact the FTC. They will actually talk you through the steps that you need to take if you're unsure. Signal, if you're our member, call us. We're here for you. We will send you emails. We'll send you links to the FTC and to the identitytheft.gov. But, we always want to make sure that as soon as you see it, you try to stop it. And that doesn't any means necessary to stop it. You want to protect yourself. So again, changing the passwords, contacting the place of wherever you think the fraud happened. If your email is hacked, and while you think nothing has been taken, if you know that you've ever sent out bank statements or your IDs, it is still good to contact your financial institution to advise them. Most institutions will either put a lock, some type of restraint on your account so they can keep reviewing it with you, or they'll change the account number to be proactive to prevent any fraud that has happened, which is what we try to do, be proactive, because if you leave things open, you have to monitor them. And we know that we all get busy. So, while the easier route is not to do anything until you actually see something, don't wait, right? It's like, don't jump right on it. Act immediately. We don't want anybody waiting. So that is my advice. As soon as you see it, do something.
Well, that's excellent advice. And, it was very enlightening about the police report, and how much they can actually help if you actually file a police report. And going back to the email, you mentioned about putting your phone number in. That, I think, I don't think people realize sometimes, your phone's a lot harder to hack than your email. So having your phone as your authenticator, and, you mentioned that briefly, the two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, whatever you may call it, that's a huge step there that I know a lot of us might get notification saying, oh, somebody attempted to log into your account. Is this you? How important it is to respond to that? How quickly should we respond to that?
So that's actually a very good question. You shouldn't respond to it if you were not waiting for it. If you ever receive anything on your phone or an email saying, hey, we're just trying to authenticate, click this button to log in. If you did not attempt to log in, or you're not doing something that should prompt that MFA, do not click it. I can tell you there have been articles that you can Google out there. Huge companies have been hacked by getting one person to click a button for the multi-factor authentication. So this can be personal, it can be at work, anywhere. If you are not expecting that link to come to your phone, I know a lot of bank accounts now, we have that, so that if you're logging into your account, it sends that security code to your phone. Some of them have the touch one where you can just click and approve it so that it lets you right in. If you weren't doing it, don't click it. If you're at work, home, personal, it doesn't matter. Don't. That is one of the most important things. We have seen huge companies get hacked by that one little click. Once you've authenticated that, if you weren't the one doing it, that means a fraudster was on the other end trying to get in, and you just open the door for them. So it's so important for those MFAs where you get, while there's the push notifications, the code that come to your phone, that you don't do anything with it if you're not expecting it. If you are, then yes, very well, go ahead and log in and use that. But almost every institution and big companies, PayPal, they all do the push notifications for the most part too. So just be very careful, because once you do that, you've accepted liability too from a financial standpoint. So if you were logging into your app, let's just say, and you were attempting to do a $5,000 transfer, but it wasn't you, and you clicked that button on your phone, you have now confirmed to your financial institution that it was you. And when they look at the report, that is what it shows. So, from a business aspect, that's one way. But from a personal aspect, that is the additional thing, that you're accepting liability once you select and click that you're accepting that MFA to your phone or to your email. So, just be really careful about that. But the other thing with MFA are the security questions. I know a lot of places are getting away from security questions, but some places still do use them. If you have security questions, don't answer the questions truthfully, right? Like, who was your first dog, or what was the name of your first dog, or what was your first car? Don't put those answers in. As we talked about earlier, if somebody knew you personally, they know those answers. So really, those answers should be random. What was your first car? It was purple. Just think of random things, or things that you won't forget. Even if you use a phrase in those, you can do the same thing that we were talking about earlier, where you use a phrase for that. But don't answer those security questions truthfully, because that's what the fraudsters relying on. If they stole your credit, right, they have your mother's maiden name. They can get those answers, unfortunately, pretty easy about where you grew up, because for the most part, it's in the credit report, where you lived for the past 10 years. And we don't think about those things. We think of everything as being so secured, but all of your information is basically online, from Facebook to all the different Snapchats and Instagrams. Your whole life, for the most part, is online. And that is what the fraudsters use. Your Instagrams, your Facebooks, they're linked to an email address, right? So they hack that email. They might not even let you know they've hacked your email. They use it to get into now all of your social media. They know all your personal information. All they're doing is gathering enough data and information to use your person. Now you've become like their sim, and they're going to go out there and they're going to use you in any way that they want. And the other thing that I know a lot of people don't think about is if your ID is lost. If you lose your driver's license or state ID, you need to report it lost or stolen. I know we don't think about it. We walk in and we just say, oh, we're going to get another one. It's really important that you do that, because we've seen instances where those IDs are actually used in crimes, right? They get left at a crime scene. And that person, right, the real person, then gets brought in for questioning. This has actually happened because they didn't report their ID stolen. The DMV and stuff didn't know it was stolen. So that person actually was really brought in for questioning because their ID was there. So it's so important that anytime your cards are lost, your ID is lost, your social security card is lost, that you report those things immediately to the DMV, to the Social Security Administration. So there's a record of that. It will help you in the long run.
Well, that's extremely helpful, and even for me, I love the idea of the questions, security questions, having it be something different, like because you're right. All my friends that grew up and all my family, they know those answers. The street I lived on, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that family members, unfortunately, will try to steal your identity. There's elderly abuse from children and grandchildren, taking advantage of their parents or grandparents. Somebody that maybe your relationship fell apart and you're not close anymore, but they grew up with you. It is scary. So I'm going to change some of my security questions to like color of the car, or something unique about the car that no one else knows. I love that.
No,
Um,
but that's a good segue too, real quick, for elderly people, not just elderly, but young people, the in between of those, of the fraud that we see with that. It's very important to educate younger folks and the elderly folks. Once people are in that in between where they can fully function, but they need a little bit of education, right? Because those are typically where we see that they fall more susceptible to the fraud schemes that we do see. So it's really important to educate the younger generation as well as the older generation, not to click on everything and not to be so trusting. And, if people are coming in the house, it's very important to safeguard the personal information, social security cards, bank cards. Those aren't things that you want to leave out. They don't even have to take it. They just have to take a picture of it. In this day and age, that's all you need. You don't need to actually walk away with it anymore at all. Just a picture and you're good enough.
No, that's a great point, and I think that goes back to one of the reasons why we're doing this is we want to educate people so that they don't have these mistakes and learn from all the mistakes that we've seen or maybe even experienced. And I know when I got out of college, I didn't know half these things. Somebody had to teach me, and whether it was a family member or maybe my employer. So I think it's also opportunity. And again, whether you're young or older, maybe middle age, and you just haven't had the experience, hopefully you're taking some of these tips that Shakira is sharing, because we're going to put the links that she mentioned for identitytheft.gov and the other one in the comments a little bit later. So you'll see that. And we'll probably do a post about this later because you gave some amazing tips here. It's been really helpful. Another question I wanted to ask you, and this is probably a little bit more on an institution side, but now a lot of places, they require when you're verifying somebody calling in for their account, you have to verify that it's really them, obviously. And sometimes institutions will ask for the full social security number. And I know sometimes people are like leery about putting it in there, but it also is probably one of the most secure ways, I would imagine, to verify someone. What are your thoughts or comments about that?
So it depends on the way that it's coming in. Currently, through the call center, we put in a lot of safeguards for Signal. So when you come into our call center, most of the questions that you're going to be asked won't be too much surrounding your Social Security. What we've put in place for the call center is to really ask the deep questions that somebody really wouldn't know. Online right now, what we do have is the registration to put in your Social Security number if you've never used our system before, right? But our system is secure. Or we're your financial institution, we have your Social Security number. I would say you do not put in your Social Security number on every single site. You have to know where you're putting your Social Security number and who you're giving it to. If you have called your financial institution, whether that be us, your credit card company, PayPal, a lot of them will ask for it. If you have called them, it is safe to give them the number. As long as you know the number you've called, this is the institution you've been dealing with, it's safe to give it to them. Now, if they have called you, even if it's Signal, any institution should not call you and ask for your Social Security number or any personal information. So if the roles are reversed where they're calling you, no. They could say that they are the president on the phone. Do not give them anything. We hear them, right? The IRS calling and or the police. If they've called you, don't give them anything. But if you're calling your financial institution and we're asking for that, most of the time it's because some of the information that's been provided may not provide the account number that we need, whereas the Social Security number could. And that happens. People may forget a digit or two of their account number. Unfortunately, the system isn't going to pull that up for us or anybody because that's not your account number. Whereas the Social Security is your unique identifier. That's really what it is. And I think that over time, we'll see that the Social Security number isn't going to be the mitigating factor of safety anymore, because it's something that, as we're seeing, right, people are using and they're stealing, and it creates this headache. The safeguards really in place are to protect yourself and to know where you're calling. And yes, if your financial institution is asking for it when you've reached out to them, it is normally because they need that information to identify the account that you're calling about. Please note that it's in the account, so if you're not comfortable with your financial institution, that may say more, and perhaps you might want to go inside. And we understand some people, they're on the phone and they don't want to say it around somebody, and that's okay. But those type of conversations, if you're not okay having it outside, which we understand, walk into a branch. That might be where you get that comfortability that you can see exactly what's being done when they ask for that information. And I think that helps a lot of people, because when I've had the pushback, I was in the call center as well, for giving the social, that helped. If you're not comfortable, we understand that. Walk into one of our branches. We can help you just as well inside as we can over the phone. And then perhaps if you talk to us, or explain what the issue is, we'll walk you through it. Our site is secure, the things that we're doing, the ways that you can identify where you're safe to give that information.
That was awesome. I love that tip. And it makes sense because if I'm calling my financial institution, I've already given my social security number. You're right. I should be comfortable doing it. But I think, would it be accurate to say if somebody called you and started asking you those questions, would it be fair to say, you know what? If you give me your extension, I'm going to call back the main number and I'll call you back just to verify that you actually work there. Would that be
Yeah.
an appropriate thing to do?
They can. I don't even get an extension. I just ask for the person's name because this happened to me. And then I go, if I don't have the direct number myself, I'll go online and look for my institution's phone number, or check the back of my card and call that number. Do not let them give you a
No.
phone number themselves. Yeah, if somebody's ever calling you, we know that's one of the new schemes. They'll hit you from every angle. And the other thing with that is that now with the different apps out there, a person can call you and spoof the phone number. So it will appear that they're calling from your institution. They can spoof any phone number. So please note that this is not just like our institution. A hacker or a spoofer can get these apps. They can make it look like they are calling from any phone number. And that's what shows up on your caller ID. So it will disarm you because you see that on there. But if they start asking you any personal information, end the call. Do not give anything. It doesn't matter how small it is. We've seen it even where they just call in and they ask you to, oh, is this, Miss Joe Doe, right? Yes, it is. That's all they needed was that little recording, right? Or the best thing, who is this? Who is calling? What institution are you calling from? What is your name? Go right back with the questions, because as soon as you start answering questions, they'll try to keep going on that line of method, and then they'll wrap you up into a different conversation. And it can turn pretty bad because they'll sound like they know everything. So that is my advice. If they call you, just ask for their name, ask what they're calling about, hang up and call back your institution with that information, and they'll confirm it.
I like that. Turn it around. I used to do that with telemarketers. They called oh, can I sell you on something instead of them selling me on something? But you're right. Ask the questions back of those potential hackers that are trying to get information, because they might just need one piece of information from you, right? And if
Yes,
you get that one piece, like that's the last piece I needed. Now I can hack their accounts because I have all the other pieces already that I got from before. So it's very scary. It's very scary to think about how easily they could hack into us. But
it
I know
is.
I personally feel better with the tips that you shared, that I've learned, to at least I feel like I have a little bit of some protection lined up. But I still need to be alert and aware, obviously.
Yes.
So we do have a comment here from another one from Chris Ricker. He shared here: Are our branches well equipped to help when their account is potentially compromised, or is this an incredibly painful process?
Oh, Chris, this is actually so much easier now. So risk is put into place with the branches that we work together. We actually work really well, and our branches have a very seamless process right now. If somebody were to come in and needed to change their account number, it's almost like a one click and done type of thing. It's the same thing through the back office. This can also be done. So if somebody had fraud, one of our members, and they were not able to come into the branch, right? They can't walk, or they're just out of the city right now. Our back office can also assist with this through all electronic secured method. We do take every step to validate our members and things like that before this is done, but it can be done, and it's a very simple process. It's basically a process of signing new forms and just making sure that you are who you are. And if there is any fraud that has happened with our members, it is dealt with fairly quickly. We always reach back out to them. Unfortunately, there is so much fraud out there. The best thing we can do is try to help our members prevent it, because once fraud happens, as hard as it is for our members to clean it up, it's hard for the financial institutions too. We're out here fighting for our members. Financial institutions, everybody thinks that it's all linked, and money, just you write a check and it clears immediately. There's always a little bit of stop gaps in there, that causes a delay in things. And so institutions are learning to work together to protect everybody out there. But we really need that the person themselves are doing the most to protect themselves, because no matter what, you have to be an advocate for yourself. So you have to protect everything you do on a daily basis. It's just the way it is right now. It's a tough time, and fraud, unfortunately, during the pandemic, it really took a different toll, because before we were seeing it, that there was just a little bit of fraud here and there. Well, during the pandemic, it seems like they just took the time to figure out new ways to do fraud, as people were home because they couldn't just go out and touch point. So we've seen a lot of different fraud trends out there. A lot of them are just trying to target people for jobs. That's a big one that we're seeing, because people are out there looking for jobs. So, if you're out there and you're applying for jobs, check where you're applying. The link that you click on, look at the website that it takes you to. If you're applying for, just to say Holy Cross, it's a hospital, look at the site. If you get that link from a different, not that actual hospital, look at where that link takes you to. Is it taking you to a true site? Because when you apply for a job, we all know we're giving all of our personal information again. And this is another way that hackers are getting to people. So be very diligent when applying for a job. Check the contacts. If somebody reaches out to you and they say, hey, we're offering you this job, check the name of the person that is their HR person. Look at the phone numbers that they're giving you, match it to the website. Don't be afraid to reach out to the employer. I know when we're looking for a job, it can be such an intimidating thing, but don't be afraid to reach out to the employers and confirm that where you're dealing with is valid, that it is the real company. Because unfortunately, what we're seeing is the bigger companies, these hackers, will act like they're that company. They'll put a link and it goes to a fake site. You put in all of your information and then they send you a check. And they say, hey, take this check and deposit it and get office equipment. And then, whatever you don't use, just let us know and send it back to us. But by the time that check and everything is cleared and you've used this money, the check is no good and the money's out of the account and you use it. Or they ask you to buy gift cards or go do the surveys and go into the stores. Here, we're going to send you 500. Go to the stores and buy a bunch of gift cards and then see how they act. And they give you a real survey. I mean, they make it look very legitimate, but they're not real. So if anybody ever gives you a check for a job, put it in the bank. If you think that it might be fishy, tell them when you're depositing it, but don't use the money, right? If you're one of the people that do make the deposit, don't use the money. Contact your institution and say, hey, this check looks funny, or I got this check from the job. We'll look into it. Most institutions, their fraud department, they don't want the loss. They don't want you to lose money. They don't want the institution to lose money. We're here to save everybody every way that we can. So they'll contact the banker of the bank. And that's another thing that people can do too. If you receive an item, a check, and it looks really funny, look at the bank that's issued, right? And it says, like, even when you write a check, it says your bank's name. You can do the same thing. You can look into that bank to see if it's real, or call them or ask the fraud department to do that. Those are some other steps, but just be diligent with applying for jobs because the fraud schemes, they're out there, and just educate the young and anybody that's having times right now and clicking in links and just applying, because we all know that this is the time, especially before the holidays, they're going to open a bunch of seasonal jobs. So you're going to see a spike in that. So just be very diligent with the sites and the links that you click on.
Well, that again, great nuggets of information there. Just especially you think about something as simple as applying for a job, and that's something that so many people do. And you're right, sometimes it's not easy, but I would assume that you'd have the ability to, if someone was reaching out to you about a job and you hadn't applied yet, and they're trying to get you to apply, go to the website and apply through their website instead of going through that link, like you said, and verify the job you've seen and posted. Because if it's not posted, that's another red flag for you as well. But I want to say that I would recognize that a lot of HR offices out there sometimes are not easy to get a hold of when you try to reach out to them. And so one little tip is go right here on LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn and try to reach out to them. A lot of times they'll able to respond there instead of, if the phone number's not working, to reach out to them, or you get voice messages. There's other avenues you can look at, see what social media sites are on, but or reach out to somebody else in the company and have
Yes.
them help you. So
Yeah,
there's a
and you
lot.
can just reach out and verify the name. That's the other thing, like a lot of us have done. We'll call the company and just say, does, blah, blah, blah work there? And can you verify that this is their extension? And that's, most of the time enough, because a fraudster isn't going to put a real phone number and put all of that. They're going to normally have a fake phone number. And when you call it, it sounds funny when they answer. A lot of times there's a delay for a couple seconds and then they come on and say the name of the company. That's because they're using the spoofing software to redirect the call over to them. So, those are things to listen out for too when you're talking to anybody, really, for a company. It's supposed to be a company. Check the sites. And then if the phone numbers don't match up what you're seeing online for that company, don't fall for it. But you can always reach out, and to the company and verify the names and the phone numbers that you have for them.
That's a great point, because that delay is a big tell. Even when they call
Mhm.
your home phone, your cell phone, that delay should be a big red flag if you hear that. So I love that. Um, Anything else that you would want to share that would help people, with their fraud prevention, or identity theft or hacking? Anything else that you want to share that we haven't covered yet?
I would say just keep an ear out for any of the hackings that are out there, or the spoofs and the schemes. One of the biggest things is there's no free money, right? We always tell people there is no free money. Nobody is going to send you a check and say, you keep this and just send me back some. It's not real. And I know times can get hard, but nobody should accept those checks. Don't do it. And if you're questioning it, walk into your financial institution, hand them the check, tell them that you are unsure, and they will walk you through it. Because if you accept funds and deposit it, you are liable for anything that you deposit into an account. So that's just one of the biggest things. Just listen out. If things do not sound right, it's probably not right. And what we tell our staff and everybody is trust your gut. The hackers, the scheme artists, they're out there and they'll sell you a dream. That's what they're there for. They'll wrap you up in words and they'll disarm you. And it's what they are so good at. We hear it all the time. So listen out for those things. But the other one that I know that they're catching younger and older people with right now is this thing called a pigeon. It's like pigeon targeting is the word I think that they're using for it. I told you they make up crazy names for these schemes. But what it is to really coerce somebody into giving them money with either the promise of more money or that something could happen if they didn't, right? It's two ways. They will physically take this person to the financial institution to take out the money. Okay, and then let them go. They don't hurt the person, and it's not a threatening way that they're doing this. They are actually either promising money or selling it. I don't know how they do it, but they're getting a lot of people with this. And some of the ways that people have said is that they'll say, "Hey, we have this great investment. We need cash right now." They won't take a check and they won't take a wire. They want cash and they want it immediately. Now, if it is just a scheme and you are not at risk, don't do it. If you come into an institution, you are at risk. If there's any way to tell the person or the teller, we always say, try to tell us while you're there. We don't ever want anybody to get hurt. But this is one of the things that we're seeing now is that they're getting more brazen with it. They're walking into the institution with the person. Yeah, so you have the real person. We have the ID. The person, the rep may talk to that person and say, "Are you sure you want to take out the money?" And what we've seen is that it's normally somebody that maybe is a little bit elderly or somebody who's maybe younger and they're easily influenced. And so they go along with it and they even tell the reps and stuff in the bank, "No, I'm here. This is valid. This is legitimate." And they walk away with the money. The very sad thing is once that money's gone, it's gone. There's no getting it back, even if it was a scheme. So we really want you to protect yourself, your family, your friends, spread the word about the fraud. Don't fall for the schemes. It is always better to be safe than sorry because we work hard, we all do, to keep our money safe and our families. And the last thing you want is a fraudster to come in and take something that you've worked for. And they do it quickly, 10 minutes, and they can clear an account or less. And by the time you realize it, the damage is done and it's so hard to clean up. So as soon as you think something is wrong, do everything you can to protect yourself and take the proactive tips of safeguarding your credit. It's so important. Check systems you can put the block on, monitor your accounts, set up account alerts. Every institution for the most part has account alerts. Set up alerts where any transaction that clears your account for over a penny, you're notified. I know it can get a little bit tedious or annoying, but it is the best way because as soon as something clears your account, you can get a text message to view that. And as soon as you see that it was not yours, you contact the institution. The faster you are, the quicker things can be cleared up. That's my best advice. Please sign up for alerts for everything, for your debit cards, credit cards, your bank accounts, and set them at a very low threshold of just a penny so you can see everything. That way, even if you're not logging on to look at your statement, you're getting that ping every couple seconds, gas stations, everything that you use it for. That is my best advice. Watch and monitor everything for yourself to safeguard yourself.
Well, that is again amazing advice. And anyone that's watching or listening, I highly recommend. Even if you think that you have a good handle on it, take this advice and share it with your loved ones. Share it with your parents, your children, your nieces, nephews, whoever it might be that you think might benefit from it. Because just because you are confident about it doesn't mean your loved ones are. And that's what we're trying to do is make sure that everyone's aware of it. Because whether you have kids, I know I have kids in college. If I see someone logged into a simple thing like Netflix accounts, I want to make sure that it was them because they're over at college. And if it wasn't them, to your point, don't click on the link. Now, you mentioned one thing about the link. Sometimes I've seen it before where it's like, click yes if it's you or no if it's not you. Is that possibly a trap too then? Because that's just clicking on the
I
link.
wouldn't click anything. I've gotten that before. I close it out because there are spoofing hacks out there where all they need you to do is click one of them. That's it. So I don't click anything. I completely close out my text messages and I'll contact the institution. But just really quick, because you mentioned college kids and we see that a lot, that college kids and high school kids sometimes are coerced into making deposits or giving their friends their login activity. Please educate, kids and stuff that are starting to use banking themselves, right? Maybe they're not something that they're not used to. Educate them about deposits and not to take any deposits into their account without maybe speaking to you, or that, letting them know you're responsible for anything you put into your account. And also educating kids and teenagers and all the new bankers out there not to share your password or PIN numbers with anybody. And please don't, because we have seen that too, where kids give out their information to their friends thinking that, their friends aren't going to do anything bad. And the friend does terrible things to the account that impacts them and the parent or the guardian. So, please educate any children that are starting to do banking and using apps and things like that. And just in general, even not with banking, but their apps, tell them to safeguard themselves, not to share their passwords and, not to send the pictures and things like that. It's really, hackers are out there too. As much as we like to think that it's just kids talking to each other, hackers use that too to find information. And unfortunately, kids are very trusting, and they give a lot of personal information that can be used to answer those security questions, right? So just really educate the kids and everybody about security and keeping all of the information safe. It's so important, and it will go a long way in teaching them financial, literacy, and also how to safeguard themselves in the future, and just things to listen out for all this hacking and the different fraud schemes that are out there, because we see them in the high schools and the colleges where the actual perpetrators come in there and they talk to the high school kids, and they even use some of the friends and stuff. So, it happens everywhere. So just be diligent and talk about it.
And that's the main reason why we're here, is we want to make sure that we're educating, doing financial literacy. And I think that it doesn't go just for your family and friends. If you're an employer, it goes for your new employees. Like Shakira said, coming out of college, a lot of these new workers in the workforce don't understand all this stuff, and they only know what they know. So if we're not educating them in the workplace and at home, you're putting them at risk. I know we had, one of the email phishing schemes was the CEO would send out, and you mentioned earlier, gift cards. Hey, imagine if a CEO just sends you, someone that you don't talk to maybe regularly or you don't see as often, sends you an email and says, hey, can you go out and buy 25 $50 gift cards and I'll reimburse you for it. Well, the CEO asks you to do something, people are inclined to like, oh, let me go do it. But even then, it's okay to verify. Do not feel like if they're asking you to spend your own money, that should be a red flag. If you check
Yes.
their email, like Shahira said, their email should be off. But these hackers are very smart. These are not
Yes.
stupid people. They are researching it. They're testing things. They're trying things. So don't assume that you're smarter than them, because in many cases they are the experts. They're doing this as a lifelong job, and they definitely know what they're doing. So, Shakira, thank you so much. I mean, I know when we talked about this, I want to mention Chris Ricker, our trainer that I mentioned that made a few comments. Him and you are looking to do a possible podcast on these topics. Is that true?
It's true. We're going to try to keep it casual. There's just so much fraud out there, and we want people to get comfortable talking about it, because what we found too is a lot of people that do get defrauded, they don't want to talk about it. It's almost like this shameful thing, and it's not, because I can tell you that almost everybody gets hit at one point or another, and it doesn't matter who you are, because the hackers don't care who you are. They're looking for the people that either have the money or don't. It doesn't matter to them. They just want information. That's all they're stealing. So much information. So we are trying to do the podcast. We're going to make it very informal so people can come on and listen and use the real scenarios that we're seeing, because we are seeing it more, whether it be in the institution or, like you said, your friends, family, on the news, we're seeing it. So yes, we do want to get that together so that we can keep getting this word out here. It's so important that people are aware of what's going on.
Well, you heard it here first. So keep an eye out for the Signal podcast with Shakira and Chris. It'll be a little more casual than this probably, but again, it's probably just as informative, if not more informative. I mean, Shakira, thank you so much. You shared so many great tips about how to protect yourself, what to look out for, the different ways that they can attempt to hack into your accounts, how you can help protect yourself and your family, and how you can verify things with your financial institution or whatever company is trying to reach out to you. So we're definitely going to put some comments and links here in the chat, or no, sorry, in the comment section of the post. But we're going to do another post in the future, and I'll send out all the tips that Shakira sent out, and then keep an eye out for the podcast. That'll be coming out soon. And I just want to thank you, and honestly everyone at Signal, because I gotta say, everyone from our digital support team to fraud and risk to our trainers. It's amazing to hear. We just went to our new e-banking system and mobile app, and we've had a lot of our members re-register. But it's been amazing seeing the teamwork that you all go and put together to help prevent fraud from hurting our members. And it's great to see you all catch things before they become fraud, because on the calls, our DMS team is amazing, and they are very good at making sure that they are not going to let anyone into your account if they don't have the right information. Now, if you give them the information, that's obviously a problem. But kudos to you, Shakira, and everyone that helps out, because I know you keep not only us safe, but you keep our members safe. And all the
Teamwork.
information you shared here. Oh, good.
No, I was saying teamwork. It's really what it's about. I have a great team. Jocelyn is on my team. She's our risk person too, and she really works most of the fraud cases. Really trying to track it down. So the teamwork, it's been great with all through Signal. Like I said, I've been here 10 years and worked in every department. So it's wonderful. The teamwork here is just it's great. So, that really helps prevent the fraud when you can communicate so well across every department and every platform. Here at Signal, that's really worked well for us. So there is no stop gap in Signal. If somebody calls in and you get the front line, you will get all the service to the back end, even if you don't know it. So when you call into the call center and you think that you report something and it doesn't go anywhere, it does. It gets all the way to the back end to risk. And while we may not follow up on every call that comes in, do know that if you call and report anything and we see the reports, we look at it on the back end and we take steps on the back end. A lot of the times we can't, of course, make that public knowledge because of some of the steps that we do need to take. But, if you're our member, just know if you call in with any questions, comments, concerns, those get escalated. Even if you don't get to see all the work that's done for them, they all do get put into the back, and we hear them and we see them, and we take the fraud very seriously. But the teamwork is truly what makes it work and get done so quickly, because without that, we see it fall apart at other places, right? Somebody calls in and it doesn't get to the actual fraud. You call into Signal, your email, or you walk in, that fraud is going to get taken care of as quickly as possible.
Well, and there's something to be said about having people that have those same values and are truly looking out for the best interest of our members. Like my 90-year-old mother, I know she banks at Signal, and I don't do her banking; she does it all her own. But I trust the people there to take care of her, and I've seen it in action. So thank you for that personally, but also all of you listening. If you have a financial institution that's not taking care of you that way and is not looking out for you, that might not be the right institution for you. You might want to look at some other place or check out Signal, obviously. Um,
Yes.
and also, you see in Shakira, she, in her 10 years here, she started off as a teller, and she has moved up and worked in so many
Mhm.
departments, and now is head of our risk management team. So you can see there's great opportunities for advancement here. So I'd be remiss as the HR person not to say, if you have any interest in joining Signal, we have some great career opportunities. Check us out at signalfinancialfcu.org/careers. Well, Shakira, thank you again for this amazing time. I really appreciate all the insight you shared and the wonderful advice and tips. I hope you have a great rest of your day, but thank you so much for joining us. And I hope everyone else enjoyed the conversation and tips that she shared. Feel free to put comments in the chat, and Shakira and I will definitely reply back with any
Yeah.
comments or anything that you ask. And come back next month for our next Signal Live. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Check out Signal. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.